a very welcome to one and all. Well, I hope you all must be doing really great. Well, what's happening? So, if I ask what is going on? Well, the students, they are going to say nothing because exams are coming up, right? Well, of course, your exam of NEET, something as you can see, this is written that NEET exam is coming. You know, and you all must be preparing really hard for that as well. Well, today I have come up to put your strategies into a right direction. That means I have come up with a small analysis regarding your NEET exam that has been done on the basis of the previous 2 years where your exam has happened. So I know, well, you all must have done really great by now, must have studied a lot as well. So let's see how far you have done and what else is there that you need to do. So if I talk about your exam, alright, so we remember this by heart, that exam is going to take place on 6th of May, which is a Sunday. So that's my exam date. It's a pen and paper exam, simple exam that you give, that you give on a physical basis. That's how the exam is happening. So if I talk about my subject, that is chemistry. So if I talk about that, we all know that out of the total, distribution of your marks, it takes up 45 questions for you. Right, and we know that the 45 questions, they are divided into your physical, inorganic and organic chemistry, and that's what you have to see, that how we have to strategize our planning on the basis of all the 3 subjects. Alright, so the maximum that you can score is 180. Obviously, I'll say that try to score total 180 out of it. But let's see that how much we can make out of it, and we will try to score as much as possible, and that is going to help us secure a good rank and a good place, and so that we can have a great future. Alright, so if I talk about the pattern of your exam, well, we know that this is objective based questions we have. For every correct answer, we are going to get 4 marks. And for every incorrect response, 1 mark that is deducted. So if I say that how to score maximum in your objective exam, what do? Well, I'll say that the only strategy, the only way that how you should work is by planning it wisely. That means when you go for your exam, especially in case of your objective type questions where you have to do, try to do maximum of the positive as you can do, and try to eliminate the negative things as much as you can. Because generally, let's see, if I assume, if I'm doing 20 questions or 25 questions, I'm sure about it, I'm doing them correctly, good enough, I'm getting marks. What if, I was guessing 4 or 5 questions? What would happen? Well, of course, I am going to get into negative. That means the rank that I could have got only on the basis of the short questions would somewhere be deducted and would go down. So I'll suggest this one thing that, when you go for an objective exam, try to do the thing that short about it, right? Alright, so if we talk about the difficulty analysis, well, if I talk about a NEET exam, the maximum portion of the questions that they cover is your moderate section. That means the medium difficulty level. If I talk about the difficulty level, approx 55% of your 45 questions, that would be like somewhere around 24 or 25 questions, they're going to be of medium difficulty level. Then if I say the easy one, that is your 38%, and for the hard questions, that takes up your 7%. Well, that means approximately only like 3 or 4 questions, they are going to be hard. So I'll say it would be a great thing if we try to, force much on the subject, because it is taking up the easy ones and the moderate ones out of the whole of 45 questions. And I know that the difficulty level, if I talk about the NEET exam, because we are talking about chemistry, we would be having reactions, we would be having numericals and all those things. But most of it that covers under your easy section and your medium section. So a good subject, a good way to score great marks and to take up a good rank. Alright. So, first of all, if we talk about the weightage of your questions. So, we know that the subject of your chemistry that has been divided into 3 parts. Physical, inorganic, organic. First of all, if I take up your physical chemistry, well, we can't say that exact 15 questions is what we see in the paper. It could be 14, could be 15. So, what I have seen is, on the basis of the analysis that I have done for your NEET exam, is that around 14 to 16 questions that we see from your physical chemistry. Alright. So, if I talk about the main topics, the main questions, the favorite parts from where your examiner is picking up the questions, well, they are written just in front of you. All you need to do is just see whether you have done them or not, and in case if you have not, then try to do it as much as possible. Alright, the first one, that is my mole concept. Well, it has been observed. Generally, it takes up just one question for you. In the mole concept, if I say the question that has been seen was on the basis of, the limiting reagents, and sometimes on the basis of the ratio of the compounds, that you see on the basis of your mass and volume and different types of those. Or I'll say just the unit interchange. That's all that has been seen by now. So I won't say that this is the thing that would be into your exam next time as well. But this is what we have seen by now. So the second one, thermodynamics and thermochemistry. Well, again, if I talk in terms of chemistry, it takes up one question, because as you know that thermodynamics is there into your physics as well. So examiner, he tries to cover up that portion in physics as well. So generally what we observe is questions, the favorite parts that they pick up the questions from. Generally the relation that regards your delta G and delta K values, sometimes on the basis of your spontaneity. And if I say thermochemistry, well, by now thermochemistry, that is emerging out as a really good topic, and they are taking up questions from this section really frequently, and really good questions that we get from your thermochemistry. The next one that we have in your physical chemistry is your equilibrium chapter. Well, equilibrium, that would be your both, I'll say, ionic and chemical, and you have done them pretty well, and it takes up around like 2 to 3 questions into your exam. So one of the most important topics of your physical chemistry, and would be a stupidity if you are leaving this topic, because we are going to get around 3 questions out of this. And if I talk about like equilibrium, generally the questions that we have seen are, on the basis of your KSP, solubility product, and the different type of properties. If I talk about in case of your equilibrium, well, that's how the examiner covers up the section. Well, the generally numerical based question that we know, that is going to be from your equilibrium chapter, so try to do them as much as possible. One more thing that I'll say, that when we are going for NEET exam, it is a bit different from your JEE. And we know that when we are talking about the numerical portion, generally the examiner, he tries to cover up the questions from your, especially examples from your NCERT. We generally leave them. We do not pay much attention to them. But I'll suggest do not leave them, because really important way to get to the numericals that you are going to see in your physical chemistry. Alright, then your redox reaction chapter, one of the simple chapters, again takes up one question. Then if I talk about your solid state, well, in case of solid, generally the question that we have seen by now is on your density basis, or on the basis of the dimensions, or the question that has been seen is on the basis of your structure. Like if I talk about the last time, the question was simply on the basis of your zinc blend, right? Alright, so then we have solutions, again an important chapter, and I'll say do not leave anything out of it, because there is no regular pattern out of this chapter that this is a particular thing that you can do and you are going to get the question. So try to do it almost the way that you can. Then the next one we have, that is electrochemistry. Well, electrochemistry, the most important topic of your physical, it takes up like 4 questions for you. Right, And 4 questions is a big deal, and since we know that electro is one of the most important and the easiest chapters of the physical chemistry. And if I talk about electro, I can say that yes, there is a regular pattern. Because the question that comes, the examiner has some sort of divided your questions into 4 parts. Nern's equation he takes up, then he talks about conductivity, then the question that he takes up is from your Faraday's law, and then the different type of cells that you study into it. Then if I talk about the chemical kinetics and a surface chemistry chapter, well, the easy chapters again, right? So chemical kinetics, generally it has been seen that it is taking up 1 question for you, and simply doesn't talk much into that, revolves around your Arrhenius equation. That's how the question has been seen by now. If I talk about your surface chemistry, well, now this chapter is becoming pretty favorite of your examiner. If I talk about the previous ones, in the previous examinations, it was not, as much or not of that importance. But now, surface chemistry, it is generally taking up 2 questions from your exam. So, a really important one, and I'll say do not skip any chapter out of these ones. Alright. So, the next part, that is, generally my cramming part, I'll say. Because in case of physical, well, I'll say do one thing. You have to follow 3 steps. First of all, read the chapter, then do the numericals, and then do it again. That's how you would be able to do your physical chemistry. But if I talk about your inorganic, all that you need to do is generally just cramming part. You have to learn it, write it, again learn it, and that's how you would be able to do it. Alright. So, if I talk about the classification that has been done into your inorganic, again the same thing that we see, approx 14 to 16 questions they are taking up. Then if I talk about the chapters, the first one, that is your structure of atom, that takes up around 2 questions from your exam. And then if I say your periodic table chapter, the easy chapter I'm talking about, right? Periodic table is a pretty easy one. Generally the trends, the question based on your trends, that's what we have seen by now into your exam. That also takes up 1 question for you. Then I have the chemical bonding, the most important chapter of your chemistry. It takes up around 4 questions from your exam, and the pattern almost the same. What we see is the favorite topics. If I talk about of chemical bonding, what we see is generally the question is from either MOT, either your hybridization, or a numerical from a dipole moment. And that too, if you will go through your NCERT, you will see that just the values have been changed. Questions are almost the same. Then I have a simple chapter for you, your hydrogen. Again takes up 1 question. Simple chapter, we know mostly talk about hydrogen bonding cases, and hydrogen peroxide case. That is like a pretty favorite part from your hydrogen chapter. Then I have S block, P block, D and F block. If I talk about like these 3 parts which come into your periodic table, you study a lot about these chapters into your inorganic. Well, this covers up a major portion out of your inorganic chemistry. As your S block, if I talk about the S block, it is taking up around like 1 to 2 questions. P block, again I would say, this is the most favorite topic of your examiner. Takes up around like 4 or 5 questions into your exam. And since we know that the questions, they have been seen that from your different types of acids that you do, that comes into your P block, different types of trends that we have. So I'll say that do not leave anything out of P block. Then if I talk about the D and F block elements, again a small chapter but really important one, taking up your 2 to 3 questions into your exam. Well, generally what we have seen out of your D and F block, the question comes that is on the basis of different oxidation states. Since we know that these are transition elements and they exhibit different states, so that's where we see the question. Then regarding your lanthanide contraction and all those things. Then if I talk about the next one, that is a coordination compound. Well, one of the most interesting, easiest, and I'll say pretty important chapter, because it is, as you can see, the question pattern that has been observed is for 3 to 4 questions. Well, in coordination compound, there is not much to leave because since it is a small chapter and you have to go through all the different type of theories, all the different types of your configurations that you do and the calculation of your magnetic moment. That's the major portion that covers up your questions. Then I have my simple chapters of inorganic, that is my chemistry in everyday life and my metallurgy. Well, for metallurgy, I would say that, question is observed on a rare basis because there is a probability. The question can be there, cannot be there. So I will say that metallurgy not that important, but not anything that you can leave as well, but just one question, and that too on the basis of your different types of ores that you have. So that's how your inorganic that has been divided and the portions that are covering for your exam. Then if we come to the tough part of my chemistry, that is organic chemistry. Well, do not worry because when it comes to NEET, they do not go much into the depth of organic. Generally, and one more thing I'll suggest, that when you're trying to do organic chemistry, do not rush into the every mechanism that has been given to you. The questions that we have seen, all the pattern that is almost the same, and the questions, they can be solved if you know the basic mechanisms like your SN1, SN2 and addition, cis and trans. So try to do just the basic mechanisms because if you do them properly, you would be able to solve the questions really easily. Alright, so if I see in my organic, first of all I see that my GOC. Well, here I'll say that GOC, that is referring to my different types of aromaticity, my stereoisomerism. One of the most important question that is from your IUPAC nomenclature, and you get that question every time, whether directly, whether indirectly. Because when you would be solving your questions, there would be the chances that the examiner is trying to test your knowledge of IUPAC naming. Because sometimes in the reaction, they do not provide you the structure, they just give you the name. So I'll say whenever you start with organic, try to do IUPAC nomenclature pretty well so that you can proceed to the further topics. Then if I talk about your GOC, well, it is taking up your 4 to 5 questions. Then the different types of concepts that you would study, your acidity, basicity, hyperconjugation, carbocation, carboanion, basically covers up almost every basis into your GOC, right? Alright, so the next one that we have is your aromatic compounds. Again, taking up 4 to 5 questions. Well, I have combinedly written aromatic compounds because aromatic, this takes up your haloalkanes, haloarenes, your alkyl halides, and if I talk about all the basic concepts of your reactions, if I talk about your benzene reactions, so that covers up your aromatic compounds. Then if I talk about alcohols, phenols and ethers, it takes up one question, and by far it has been observed that ether is considered to be the most favorite part of your examiner. So I won't say that just focus on this one, I'm just telling you what has happened by now. Then if I talk about the next topic, which is your aldehyde, ketones and acids, again takes up one question into your exam. Well, going to be not much of a complicated question because since you know that it takes up your many name reactions. So I'll say when you are doing this topic, do the name reactions properly. Alright, then we have your amines chapter. Well, amines again takes up like 1 to 2 questions because if I talk about the further classification that we have done, we talk about your carbohydrates, proteins and all those things as well. So, and since my NEET that is related to biology most, right? So that's why it has been observed that the approach of the examiner, he tries to test your biological knowledge regarding everything. So that's why what you see is into even your questions as well, right? So then we have, if I talk about practical organic, generally we miss out this topic, but a really important one because we have seen one question from this topic as well. as like basically you don't have to do much, just the basic methods like your due mass and all those methods and the basic calculations about them. Then if I talk about the cramming parts into organic, which is my biomolecules and my polymers chapter. By now, in the last few years, this is becoming a pretty favorite part of the examiner. And you know, as you can see, sometimes 2 questions, sometimes 1 question. And these are pretty easy ones. So, would be a sheer stupidity if you are leaving these topics. Because all you have to do is just cram it and do the question. Right? Alright. So, this was all about what you have to do into your subject. Apart from your subject, there is something, you know, there is a way that how to approach for your exam. Well, I will say, well, first thing, as you can see, it says analyze your previous year question papers. If you take up, you know, if you try to solve test series or mock tests that are available into, you know, different places that are available, you know, you will not be able to solve most of them because they are nothing, just a collection of hard questions. And you know, you get demotivated and you feel that I won't be able to do it. So I'll suggest do not do it. What you have to do is go through the previous year question papers because that's where the mind of examiner lies. That's how you can know that, you know, what is the expected one, what has been done already, and you know, what we can see into our exam. Then the next thing that I'll say is, since you know this is every human tendency, this is like even my tendency, whenever I have to talk about my exam, I'll just say, you know, 20 days are left or this is left, and that creates a burden into my mind. Every time, you know, you will count the number of hours rather than the days that are being left, you know, you are going to have even better positive results. I have applied it to myself and you know, this works. So I'll suggest do not panic, do not stress about the days that you're left with, because even now if you will, you know, contribute your hours properly to every subject, you would be able to make through it. Then the next thing into my exam that I see is NEET. That is that is a question of speed. I have to work really fast. So into my exam, the strategy that I should go with, that speed is critical. Try to solve as many questions as you can, and you know, so that you get time left for the hard ones, because the easy ones, they can be done really simply. So that's why I'll say try to speed up yourself, and how you can speed up by practicing more and more questions. So that's what I'll suggest. By now it would seem really tough to you, but since almost a month is left, students, do one thing. Every day try to solve at least 100 to 120 questions of the subject on the basis of MCQs. You know, this is firstly going to increase your speed. Secondly, you are going to get an idea how to do it and what are the probable questions that can be there. Then the next thing, that is like the simple thing, everyone says that, and you know, even this works out. Whenever go for your exam, go for the easy questions first, because those are the part where I'm sure about. I'm going to get marks into this one. So rather than, you know, trying to put up my ego and I'll solve this and that, try to do the easy ones first, go through them, and then if you get time, run towards the hard parts. Alright. So another tip that I would say is NCERT. I have been saying it constantly again and again. NCERT really important, because into your NEET examination, well, I won't say about biology and all those things, but you know, into your chemistry, generally the questions that are there from your examples or from the in-text solutions of your NCERT books. So it would be a smart strategy to not rush into many things and do what we have already. The next thing that I'll say is, you know, on the last day, when only one day would be left for you, do one thing, leave everything, and just do the previous 5 years questions. You know, when you will do it after you have gone through the syllabus, you are going to have more positivity. You would be like, yes, if I can do this, I would be able to do good even tomorrow. So that's what I'll suggest. On your last day, do not, this is up to you. If you want to touch your books, do it. But I'll say it would be a really smart thing if you do only and only questions on your last day. So this was all about what I had to do with your NEET analysis, what I have seen by now, and some of the important things that I told you, and how to go for your exam, some of the strategies that work into my subject, and some of the strategies or the smart moves that I can go through. So all I'll say is I wish you all great luck, and I hope you do great, and just try to strategize your preparation so that you would be able to get a great rank. And do not fuss about your exam, not that tough, you would be able to make through it since a lot of time is left. So do not worry about anything and just keep studying, keep doing your hard work, and till then I'll say take care and all the very best.